Darfur, the western region of Sudan, is roughly the size of France and home to over 8 million people and dozens of different ethnic groups. Since 2003, Darfur is widely considered to be the largest and most complex humanitarian crisis in the world. An estimated 3.6 million people have been afflicted, over 300,000 people have been killed, and more than 2.5 million civilians have been displaced. 4 million people are completely reliant on international aid for their survival. The increased level of violence of the past few months has become so intense that many of the larger aid agencies are being forced to evacuate for fear of their own safety. Over 900,000 people are no longer reachable by humanitarian workers, and this number continues to grow daily. Children make up 50% of Darfur's population, and they face severe malnutrition, making them especially vulnerable to disease in a region where lack of access to clean water can mean even commoner ailments like diarrhea can be fatal. As displaced people reside in camps for lengthy periods, the birth rate skyrockets. The need for prenatal and postnatal care is essential, but rarely available. Despite the international aid community's efforts, infant and child mortality rates continue to rise. There are consistent reports that militia are targeting women and children. When the world turns its back on genocide, this is the result. Miles of burnt-out villages where once communities thrived, large groups of young militia implementing a scorched earth policy, unexploded bombs in a barren landscape, destruction of crops, water sources, rape, killing, and maiming of innocents. The people of Darfur wish to return to their homes, raise their crops, tend to their livestock and look after their families, but cannot do this without international assistance on many levels. Whilst the international community looks on, considers diplomatic solutions and United Nations sanctions, the situation is getting worse, not better. There is an immediate need for action. We wanted to see how effective we could be on a personal and practical level. A small group of thoughtful people could change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Through private funding and the foresight of a small committed group of individuals determined to change the status quo, the Bridge Foundation chartered a cargo plane from Amsterdam filled with essential drugs and medical supplies. The challenges and hurdles were great, but with the combined experience of 30 years in disaster relief, Bridge personnel were able to navigate the extremely complicated and arduous bureaucracy of the Sudanese government and deliver £25,000 of emergency relief. The plane arrived at Niala Airport in West Darfur on April 10th. Supplies were unloaded and delivered to 3 different camps. The remaining supplies were given to the International Medical Corps to distribute to the more difficult to access villages by dirt bikes in teams of 2 or 3 personnel. This Bridge Foundation mission delivered enough anti-protozoal agents to treat 7,000 people for parasitic infection, enough antibiotics to treat 4,200 people for bacterial infections, enough scabicide to treat 2,000 people for scabies and lice, enough syringes and needles for 18,400 injections, enough oral rehydration salts to provide 10,000 therapies to counter dehydration from diarrhea. But more importantly, it delivered that most precious resource, hope. That somewhere in the darkness, people had heard the cries of despair, the hope that a mother could protect her child without fear of rape, reprisal, or starvation. The hope that a grandmother could comfort her grandchild without fear of torture, intimidation, or death. Thank you to all those who made this mission possible. You are the inspired few that will change the world.